trying to sift through every data point we had about how Ryan Poles was carrying himself. You always call it lying season. What was desperation? What was jawboning the market? However he did it, whatever was out there, not bad. Pretty good.
Pretty damn good by Ryan Poles to get everything that he needed. And Friday, I'm just standing there going, like, I'm literally standing on Central in Phoenix by Odyssey Phoenix, and I'm like, these mofos pulled off something big, and it does so much. It shows a lot of confidence in the quarterback, number one, because you're out here getting him weapons. Number two, it sets you up for free agency. You don't have to necessarily sift through what is not a great free agency class for wide receivers. Number three, you got yourself some picks, and the pick that you got from Carolina, they're not a quarterback away from being a good team.
No, they're taking a step back, and that's what the Moore trade tells you, is that you've increased the value of the pick for which you just traded, because that team is retrenching a little bit. They're going to be like, all right, these last couple years of this terrific wide receiver aren't really going to benefit us at the moment because we're starting over. We're resetting our quarterback clock somehow. So I'm thinking, okay, because that's a top 10 pick minimum, right, next year?
Oh, I think it's easily a top 10.
Yeah.
It could end up being a top 5 pick, depending on everything with them as a team. And I know that Steve Wilkes got a ton out of them. They finished 6-6 under him, but they didn't want to keep him as the head coach. They wanted to move in a different direction, and it does feel like, hey, we're going to go draft a quarterback and we're going to start things over. We're going to rebuild, and it's going to be fine. But that is it's seismic. Like what this move was for the Bears was absolutely seismic. And it was great to see Ryan Poles say, this is what we're on. This is what we're planning on doing. And then going out and executing the plan.
All of that crap that we went through for 3 weeks of trade Justin Fields. Are they going to trade? And for so many people looking around, the out-of-town stupid on that. The way this move reinforces our understanding of how ridiculous that all was is very satisfying.
Yes, it is, Dan. It's one of the things. Like, I got a big list. I'll show the people on Twitch, twitch.tv/Chicago670 The Score. I have a whole list of things that I wanted to discuss, and one of them was what this means for how they feel about Justin Fields. And you're right. And like we said a couple weeks ago, there's been some problematic reporting that I think has been one source reporting. And when we saw the report from Jason La Canfora, it didn't make a lot of sense. And obviously then people kind of ran with it and all this stuff. I love the show of support, figuratively and literally, that this means for Justin Fields.
Yep.
That we're going to get you some help, young man, that we've got, what did Poles say? We've got to see it through. We've got to see, and maybe that only means that they want to make sure that they're seeing incremental growth from year 2 to year 3, or maybe they're expecting to see a jump from year 2 to year 3. But the idea of them not using the number 1 pick to control the draft because they need help in so many different places was ludicrous. Like I was talking with my buddy Brandon Cristal. I went on his show in Denver on Friday night, and I was saying how I've been covering the Bears full time since 2003. This is the worst Bears team I've ever seen. When you really start to look at what their needs are in free agency, they need basically a whole new offensive line and a whole new defensive line.
Yeah, the roster still sucks.
It's still bad.
Right now, it may be the worst. It's still the worst roster in the league.
But the cool thing is now there's a couple of doors and rooms you can close. You can pretty much close the door of your wide receiver room. Like if you go and get wide receiver help, it's piling on, and I like it. Like, don't get me wrong. And you know that your back four is decent. Still need additions there too, but you know it's decent. Now you can start building the interior, the big uglies. You can do all of that, and you have to do that. Like Olin was saying, like Baldy was saying, if you're going to have this quarterback take that next step in his development, he's going to need an offensive line. He's going to need a center that can see the matrix. He's going to need some guys that can protect him so that those passing plays can develop and he can win more from the pocket. But yeah, like it almost felt like people didn't watch the games themselves. Like I remember inside of that time that you're talking about, Dan, where people are making the argument of trade Justin Fields. Well, it's 5-20 as a starter. Like, okay, now go back and watch the worst game that he played, which was the Washington game. And even in the Washington game, there was a chance for him to win the game. And what happens? Darnell Mooney drops the ball in the lights at home. Okay? If you watch the game against the Dolphins, and as I said when we were sitting here afterwards, if I had flipped those quarterbacks in the game, if I took Fields, who clearly Mike McDaniels was enamored with, and I make him the Dolphins quarterback, and I made Tua the Bears quarterback, the Dolphins win that game 50-7. If you look at the game that was played between the Eagles and the Bears, you could, in that particular game, make an argument that Justin Fields was the better quarterback inside of that game on that day. So even in the losses last year, you saw stuff that I don't want to say he's close to MVP level, but he's close to making a breakthrough. And if you had better players around him, it'd be easier to know if he were bad. And he's not bad. He's good.
What they just did is made a big, bold statement across the NFL landscape that Justin is our guy going forward. We're going to put pieces in place to support his career. And now we're going to make some huge, significant changes on both sides of the football with multiple high-round picks that you could change your destination for this upcoming season within one draft and one free agency period.
Yep.
Or as they say in a Knight's Tale, they can change their stars. And that is both literal and figurative in this case. They took stupid off the table.
Yep.
They took stupid off the table. All of those hours that were spent on the national shows in the airport bars and the hotel lobbies yammering stupidity in the ears of American sports fans. Ryan Pohl's like, yeah, no. That's
we're not going to do this based on a lottery ticket where, look, if you look at the hit rate of first round quarterbacks, it's not great. Like overall, you have a known commodity that I think you at least know where Justin Fields' floor is. And the ceiling to me is still like I don't know if you even know where that is with him, but you saw glimpses of some things. And even like with some of the red zone passing stuff, I know that we spend a lot of time focused on Fields and what he was able to do with the run game. But if you looked at some of the decisions that he made in the red zone, that they were better. You saw some of the plays. Obviously, he can get better as a passer. There's no doubt about that. But we're living in a space now where your quarterback has to have some of that juice that Fields has, where he can make a play out of a disaster.
Well, there's another aspect to it, too. In the near term, this is obviously a major investment in the future of Justin Fields. But it's not without back-end options, and we'll talk about that as we return. We are talking Bears on a Bears Monday. They've made maybe the biggest trade in the history of the franchise, one of the biggest trades in the history of Chicago sports. Happened on Friday afternoon.